Okay. Hi, everyone. How are we? Great. Okay, love to hear it. Welcome to On-Set Lighting with me. Hi, Kev. Sit down. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's just get into it. I know we started a little bit late. So, let's talk about the importance of lighting. So first off, we need to see, because if we don't have lights, we can't see anything, and then there's no film. Second, we want to have like nice looking visuals. Like you could just record without light and then it's just kind of up to the room, and then you want to have control over it. And if you don't have lights, then you don't have control. We can also use lights to direct the viewer's attention. We can use lighting to drive emotion. And like I said, we just want to be able to control color, control tone. Moving on. So there's a lot of terms. Can everyone like see that? Okay, is that big enough? Okay, great. So there's a bunch of terms. Like I know there's a lot of text on the screen, but like it's not that deep. So first off, you have your key light. That's your primary light source. That's your primary light source. And then you have your fill light, which is a secondary source, which is used to turn or to reduce the shadows that are created from your key light, which is your primary source. So, and then you have your hair light, which is an optional, but like kind of not optional source that you can place behind your subject. That'll give them kind of like it's a hair light, which is like almost like a light wrap around their hair that will separate them from the background. So those are your three main types of lights. There's a bunch of types of light setups. You have high key, which is like bright and even, low contrast. That's what you'd see at like a comedy show, where it's just like kind of flat lighting overall. You just want to see everything clearly. Then you have low key, which is more film-like, which you have higher contrast, deeper shadows. You have hard light, which you can see right here. So in this case, the key light would be coming from this direction. You can tell this because this side of her is bright. And this is hard light because you see these sharp shadows that are happening all over here. So hard edges. Soft light, on the other hand, is more diffused shadows, and you can't actually see this like hard edge. Like it kind of just diffuses across her skin like that. So there's types of light modifiers. You have your source light, which is just an actual light. And then you have a bounce, which is just any material that reflects light off of it. By doing so, it also softens the light's effect. You have a diffusion, this is an example of diffusion. It's just any material placed in front of or like over your primary light source, or any light source, sorry, to just spread light around and soften its intensity, so you're not getting these harsh shadows right here. Then you have a gel. We don't really use gels because our lights can make their own colors, which is just like a filter that you place over your light, and it like, oh no, you're totally good, bro. And it's like literally you just put it in front of your light, and it's a color, and the light will become that color. Pretty chill. We don't really use gels, like I said, because our lights can do color. Cool, moving on. So one thing that's really important is color temperature and your white balance. Color temperature itself is just how warm or cool a light is. It's measured in Kelvin, from like 1,000 all the way to 10,000, but like most lights can't really replicate 1,000. I think ours start at like 2K, go up to like 7.5K. And the higher the Kelvin number, the cooler the light, which is a little unintuitive, but that's just how it works. So here are some metrics. Like candlelight is really warm because it's a candle. That would be around 2,000 Kelvin right here. Tungsten light, right about there. That's like the kind of light or like house lights that you would see in older homes that don't have LED lights. Daylight, just outside with minimal clouds, right around 5,600, pretty right in the middle. And then if it's overcast or shady, you'll probably be getting a little more blue in there, just because the clouds are like diffusing the light a little more. Cool, so then white balance, going right off of color temp. what that is you're just adjusting your camera's color interpretation. Like the easy way to think about it is like you're just making sure your white point is actually white, because your camera uses white as its reference point for all of its colors. So orange might not be a correct orange if your white is not a correct white, if that kind of makes sense. So when you're actually on set and you're setting your white balance, don't just set it to whatever, and definitely don't set it to auto white balance if you're doing video. You want to set it to either a temperature that you set, or if there's, for example, a light in a room that you can't change, you would set your white balance to roughly the color temperature of that light. So for example, if these lights weren't able to turn off, I would probably set color temperature in the camera to like 4,500 Kelvin, which is right around here. Like it's not blue, but it's not too orange, but it's a little bit orange, so probably around 4,500. If I could turn all these lights off, you can kind of keep it at 5,600 and change your lights color temperature to kind of what you want. My computer is literally falling apart. Okay. Yeah, and so you use your light fixtures, which are just your actual lights, to compensate for that. Cool, moving on. This part's really important. So getting proper exposure. Exposure is just the amount of light hitting the camera's sensor. I meant to get rid of this background image, but I didn't, so now you can't see anything. Yeah, right. So overexposure, you can see right here where there's too much light hitting your camera's sensor, then your highlights get blown out and you have detail loss, which you obviously don't want. The opposite right here, underexposure, not enough light hitting the sensor. Again, detail loss, but in the shadows this time. So it's really important to get proper exposure in camera. You have tools to do this. You have the histogram, which is what you get on like A7s and a lot of smaller cameras. It'll look like this. This is just distribution of brightness across your image, only in the left to right direction. So if this is your left side of frame, this is your right. This is literally how bright it is. And it's 1D. A waveform is a little more complex than that. It's this exact same thing, but it's 2D, and it's a much more accurate way to determine exposure as compared to your histogram. And then the best one is false color, which you can see right here. It's literally like your camera or your monitor will take your image and it will assign not random, but like colors to each brightness value. And you can literally look at your image and be like, okay, this part right here is too hot or too warm or too bright because it's red. And then maybe this part is too dark because it's like almost blue. We will look at false color when we actually whip out all the lights. Cool. So then obviously there are sections to your image. Your image, generally, you don't want it to be flat. If that's what you're going for, then whatever. But most of the time, you don't want your image to be flat, which means different areas will have different brightness levels. But because of this, sometimes your sections of your image will be too bright or they'll be too dark, and you don't want that to happen because then your colorist will hate you because they won't have any information to work with when they're grading. So this is kind of like a good rule of thumb. You don't have to stick with it, but in general, the key side of your skin, so the side of the face that your primary light source is hitting, you want that to be anywhere from like half a stop to 1.5 stops greater than middle gray. And so if I go back here, middle gray is like the middle exposure. This is like, it's also called 18% gray. That is essentially your perfect exposure. You can see this gray right here. That means you're right in the middle of pure black and pure white. I should have brought that image from the color grading workshop and put it here. And light exposure is measured in stops. So 1 stop over, 1.5 stops over, 2 over, and then the same way in the other direction. So the key side of your skin, like I said, should be brighter because again, brighter things attract a viewer's attention, and generally you want the focus of your image to be the person in it. And skin is something that our eyes are really, really accustomed to seeing. So if something's wrong with our skin, it's very obvious. So anyway, we want the key side of our skin to be 1 to 1.5 stops over. The fill side, which is the other side, so her Grace's face here is covered by her hair, but this is effectively the key side. This is, I think, we shot this like 2 days ago, but this is, I believe, 1 stop over. And then the fill side, which is just whatever the opposite side is, that's going to be anywhere from 1/2 stop to 1.5 stops darker. This is 1 stop below middle gray. Your background, you want that to be pretty much 0. You want that to be right on middle gray, or you can have it a little darker if you want. Any white materials, like white clothing, a wall or something, you can let that go up to about 2 stops over middle gray, but then you'll start to get detail loss. And then kind of almost exactly the same for black materials. So you can see her shirt right here. That's pretty close to black. You want that to be 1.5 below. Like technically you could go all the way to like 3 stops below, but you're really not going to get any information out of that. So I would keep it somewhere around here. And you can tell stops, and I'll show you this, by when you're using false color, it'll give you a little graph on the side that you can tell how many stops is over or under. So, order of operations when you're on set. Once you have frame lock is just when the camera is set and they're not going to change the frame anymore. What you're going to do is you're going to turn off all your lights, including your house lights, which are just the lights in the space that you're in. If you're outside or there's a natural light source, say that's a window or you're like literally the sun, you're going to expose your camera for that brightest light source. I'm not going to get into how to expose your camera. That's a different workshop. But you know, just the usual aperture and ISO. You know, lock down your exposure there. If there's no natural light, so if like what we're in right now, if I turn off the lights, it's just going to be pitch black. You're going to use a light source to light your background first, and you're going to get it until you get to roughly middle gray, or like halfway through your histogram or waveform. And then once you have your background lit, or you have your normal exposure set, you're going to bring in your subject or someone to stand in. You're going to put them exactly where you want, and then you're going to turn on your key light, so your primary light, and you're going to adjust the intensity of it until your skin, like we said back here, is roughly a stop over middle gray. Once you've done that, your key you don't have to touch anymore. You're going to bring in your fill light or your secondary source, put it on the other side of them, and you're going to adjust it until it's, like we said, half a stop under or wherever you're kind of satisfied with. If you choose not to have a fill light, that just means you'll have more contrast between each side of the face because your ratio of source light to no light will be greater. And then this is optional. You don't have to do this, but you can add a hair light, like which I said before. And then normally for hair lights, you want them to be 1 to 2 stops below what your key light is set to. You don't want it competing with your key light, otherwise it just looks like a halo, which is generally not the goal. And then once you've done with all that, you sit back and you wait until the shot is done and an assistant director starts yelling at you, and then you do it all again. Cool. Moving on. So there's also some etiquette we need to keep in mind when we're doing lighting. So most of the time, obviously, we have all this big shit on set. Camera, that's kind of as big as it gets. It can get a little bigger, but like they're never gonna have huge stands or like this thing. So we want to be careful when we're moving stuff around, and we don't want to blind people either. So whenever we're about to turn on a light, we're gonna say striking really loudly so everyone hears it. And whenever we're moving something that has points, like a stand or anything with sharp corners, just yell points really loudly. If you hear any of those words, look away and get out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to either go blind or you're going to get stabbed. And ideally, you don't want either of those to happen to you. Cool. I think this is like the last slide. And then also because, you know, lighting kind of goes hand in hand with like grip. We need to be safe with our lights. Lights are kind of the main thing that make things catch on fire. So we need to make sure we keep them away from anything flammable. Definitely don't keep it near a sprinkler system. Don't keep it near paper. Ideally, keep it as far away from walls as possible. You want to use high quality cables. Don't use some janky thing you found in like a dumpster. The cables that come with your lights are generally the ones you should use. And definitely, as it says right here, don't daisy chain anything. Does everyone know what daisy chaining is? Yes? Okay, thank you, Owen, for asking that question. Daisy chaining is when you plug an extension cord into an extension cord, into an extension cord, and you keep doing that. That's called daisy chaining. That is probably the biggest fire hazard you could do on a set or anywhere. If you're daisy chaining in your apartments, guys, stop doing that. Okay, anyway, so that's fire. We also don't want to overload the circuits. So if you're inside, obviously, your rooms have circuits in them. Multiple outlets can be connected to a circuit, and we don't want to overload these circuits. If you're bringing huge lights like the 600 or something even bigger than that, you want to check the place you're in's breaker box so you can identify where the circuits are, and you want to plug your big lights into different circuits, not different outlets, different circuits. So if that means you need to plug your biggest light into a different room and then run it in, do that, because it's better than frying your circuit, blowing a fuse, and then having to pay your location to get it fixed. And then this is just best practice. Don't use more than 80% of the rating for your circuit. If you're reaching 100, you're kind of dangerously close to blowing that circuit, and you just don't need to deal with that. Pretty much, if you have a big light, just plug it into different rooms and you'll generally be okay. But definitely check the breaker box too. Okay, cool. That's all that I had. I'll stop yapping now and let's get into the hands-on stuff. Get hyped. Okay, let's switch over to the camera source. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna set up cameras here. We're gonna have someone sit in right here and we're gonna light them all together, and it's gonna be a ton of fun. Cool, so let's do that. And Owen left. Okay, cool. So yeah, you guys don't have to stay sitting. It'll probably be easier if you guys come on up here. So I'll start by going through kind of the lights that we have, because it's probably a good idea for you guys to know that. One of our very popular items is right here. It's a light tube. This is our smallest one. We have one that's about double the size. It has a battery right here. You just turn it on. It won't turn on without the battery. And you just plug it in. And now, before I turn it on, what should I say, everyone? Striking, good. Okay. You can adjust intensity. You can adjust color temperature. It has a bunch of fun modes. So you can do HSI, and you can adjust all your colors all the way through the wheel. You can also do effects, and it has a bunch of cool things in it. So if you want a cop car, it will do cop car, and you can adjust all that. Anyway, that's a tube. Good stuff. We also have MC Pros. These are the smaller versions of a tube. They're itty bitty. They have magnets on the back that you can stick onto anything that's magnetic. They also come with 1 diffusion, 2 diffusion, and then they usually come with a grid, but I don't know where this one's grid is. We'll find it. We have panel lights. I don't have them in here because those are boring. This is a 300. Once you get to bigger lights, the number represents the, I think it's the wattage of how many watts the light will produce. So this is 300 watts. And then we have a 600 in that box, which is double the size and double the wattage. So let me talk about stands really quickly. We have 2 types of stands. We have normal light stands, which are like these. These are the smaller ones. Those are the bigger ones. You open them by twisting this, pulling the legs out, and just pushing. if it would do that, that would be great. And then you just put it right down, you twist it to tighten, and then you can do the same deal for these, whatever. And then we have also, so I guess these are the bigger light stands. They're more heavy duty. I'll move those out of the way. And then you have C-stands. You know what, let me just build one out for you. That's what I did. They come in a C-stand case. They have two parts, two main parts. You have the legs and you have the actual body. You open the legs by pulling the unlock pin at the bottom, pull it up, and then it'll just spin out. You put it right down on the ground. You have your main body, which you can just throw right into the middle of that. And then you want to spin this thing down there to lock it down. As your lights get bigger, you want to start using C-stands. So the 600, definitely put it on a C-stand. The 300, you can put it on one of the heavy light stands, but it's just better. You might as well put it on a C-stand. But I mean, tubes and whatever, you can just stick on normal light stands. That's no big deal. And then, you know, also, I have fully built out C-stands over here. Sorry, Kev. This right here on the top is called a gobo head. So this is what that stand is. You can just put this right on here. And then this is called a gobo arm, which is just another thing that you can put into your C-stand to give it more range. I'm not going to do the whole thing, whatever. But cool, so let's talk about putting a light onto the actual C-stand. If you're using one of these lights, one of the bigger lights, they have this opening at the bottom. You just put it right into this. So you're going to take your gobo head off, and you are just going to throw your light right on the top, and then you're going to tighten the pin that should be with your light. Good rule of thumb, you always want your light to point. So you point your light wherever you want it to point, but you want to make sure your tallest leg of your C-stand is facing the direction your light is in. Because once these start to get really big, and if you put like diffusion on here, it's going to get top heavy. And say it's facing like this way and it starts to get heavy, it's going to start going. But if you're facing this way, you're facing your heaviest leg, as much as I push, it's not going anywhere. Also, once your lights start to get really big, you want to start using sandbags on them. One sandbag is usually enough, two is better. Your sandbag always goes over your tallest leg. Your first sandbag at least, and then your second one goes over your second tallest, and then your third tallest. If you're using 3 sandbags, you will probably have an absolute tank on your C-stand, and it probably means you need to use a stand that is bigger than a C-stand, which do exist. Okay, when you have big lights like this, they come with, let me spin this around for you guys. This is the port for it. This thing is literally just a sensor and a bunch of fans, like a light emitting diode and a bunch of fans, because it gets really hot. You can't control anything off of this. So you need what is called a ballast, which comes in the box. This is an example of a ballast. If I could get it off the damn stand. Oh my fucking God. Okay, cool. It will come just like this. It has this really nicely made cable that you can just hang off of any of these. If you want to be really cool, it also comes with this, which you can just clip right onto there, and then it'll just tighten right onto your stand. What your ballast does, first off, your power cable goes into the bottom of your ballast and it plugs into the wall. Then you take another cable, comes out of the top of the ballast and goes into your light. Your ballast controls your intensity, your effects, your color temperature. None of that happens up here. It all happens down at the ballast. So, you know what? Don't worry about that. Let's talk about some of the diffusion and other materials. So when you pull your light out of the box, it's going to come like this. It has a cap that I kept back in the box. They all come with a cone like this. This is just a cone filter. It's reflective on the inside. It'll put a hot point source wherever you're pointing your light. And that is that. I am actually going to plug this in so I can just show you guys. Owen, do you want to help me with this? So, and I'll show everyone. The bigger cable is generally going to be the one that goes into the bottom of your ballast. It's also the one that has an actual plug on it. So, all right. A lot of these lights have different power options or different cables you can put at the bottom. I can actually show you guys. Ignore that. So you can see there's multiple options here. We use this middle option. All of our cables just plug right into there. Just spin it around a few times. It'll lock in, and you just spin it to lock it into place. So now you'll see that it turns on. You want to make sure it's off when you're plugging in your light. If you look over here, I'm not striking it yet. There are pins inside of here. There are pins on one of these ends. Do not go pin to pin. You will break all the pins, and that will not be good. One side of this cable has holes for the pin up here and pins for the hole in here. So just do it the right way. Just look before you actually plug it in, and you'll be fine. They just plug right into place. And now I'm going to turn these lights off. All right, and I'm going to point this up at the ceiling, but I'm still going to say striking because it doesn't matter. All right, strike. And now we have light. So if I take this cone filter off, we have a really harsh source, and you can see all these crazy shadows, right? Because this is literally the light sensor. You can literally see it's making my hand hot. Anyway, the cone is gonna make a more spotlight type thing. If I'm gonna point it right at that wall, so everyone watch your eyes. Actually, that is not doing what I wanted it to do, but it's kind of making this cone, this circle, and there's a hot spot at the center, and it gets darker as it goes to the outside. That's what the cone does. We have a lot of, yeah, Jonas, go ahead.
Probably on this, but with regard to diffusion, is it better to use a bigger light like this? Like, does it spread out more evenly than something that's like smaller, more directional? Or?
So your diffusion depends on the diffusion material, not the light that you're using to diffuse. Okay. If I put the 600 on here, the light diode is roughly the same size. It's just going to be brighter. Okay. So your diffusion material, the way diffusion works, and I'm going to talk about diffusion now. Thank you for bringing it up. The further away from your source your diffusion material is, the more diffused your light will be, and the bigger your diffusion material, the more diffused your light source will be. So, for example, if I was to take like a 5-in-1 reflector like this and put it like directly in front of, you know, this 300, excuse me, right? We're getting pretty diffused, but if you look, we're still getting pretty sharp shadows, right? If you look, if someone wants to stand, someone wants to take like 3 steps this way, yeah, thank you, Aisha. That's a pretty sharp shadow still, you know what I mean? But now, if we were to take this much bigger piece of diffusion, stretch it out, and keep it further away from the actual source, what we're gonna, and I should probably. And now, Aisha, if you want to stand back there, look at that, the shadow is gone, right? So diffusion works by, like I said, using a material. I'm going to move this, so watch your eyes. So yeah, bigger diffusion size means more diffused, and further away from the source also means more diffused. We have lots of types of diffusion. I just showed you we have 5-in-1 reflectors. I can kind of show you even like if I'm here versus I'm here. Actually, Aisha, can you do me a favor? Stand right there again. This is right next to the point source, and this is as I get further away, right? So further away your diffusion, like I said, the more diffused the light. Okay, thank you, Aisha. We have lots of types of diffusion. Like I said, we have the 5-in-1 reflector. All of these aperture lights have a mount on the front. It's called a Bowen's mount. This cone is Bowen's mount. This big ass softbox here is also Bowen's mount. And this is just another type of diffusion. What this is inside, this comes with a grid as well, which is pretty cool. But inside, this is just the same reflective material as the cone. Can everyone see that? It's the same reflective material, but a piece of diffusion, it's a better material than this, is placed. You know what, let me do everyone a favor and do that. Is placed far away from the actual point source, and then what this grid is doing is it's directing the light, so there's less spill around. And I'll just actually show you. And it's all just Velcro. So, everyone close your eyes again. Okay, Kevin, can I get lights? Okay, so if I put this big light on, the way the Bowen's mount work is you have 3 holes, you put it in and you twist, and it'll lock right into place. Ta-da. That's probably the fastest I've ever had it work for me. That's actually insane. Okay, Kevin, lights off again.
Lights off.
Thank you. Strike. And now we have a much more diffuse source. If you remember, this is the same intensity that I had when Aisha was standing right there. And this has already diffused it a lot and turned down the overall intensity. So any material you put in front of your light is going to drop the overall intensity of it. This right here is dropping by about 1.5 stops. This shower curtain is dropping by about 1 stop. When I add this grid, where did I keep the grid? Oh, right. Thank you. This is dropping your intensity by 1/3 of a stop because it's not actually changing. How do I explain this? So obviously this is a literal blanket in front of your light source. This has holes in it, so all your light can go through, but it's just stopping the spill on either side. But the actual fact that there is, some surface area is what's dropping it. But pretty much, if you watch kind of the light behind me, as I put this on, it stops the spill on either side. And you can see it's also getting darker because it is still something we're putting in front of the light. Does that kind of make sense? So the spill on the edges is now gone. We have this kind of diffused hot spot in the center. Okay. Kev, I'll get lights again.
Lights.
Thank you. Kill. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up the cameras. I'm going to have someone sit right over here, and we're going to actually light them the way that we would light on an actual set. So let me move all this stuff out of the way. Who would like to be my test subject? Who wants to be? Thank you. Great. Okay. So what we'll do is once I move this, and also, so now you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm going to yell points, and then I'm going to move this. I don't want to pick this up, start moving, and then yell points. Because if I'm already halfway there and I yell points, Jonas is going to look around and I'm going to stab him through the gut. Okay. Points. So I'm going to move this, go over there. So what we'll do is, points again. I'm going to put a chair right here. I'll have you take a seat right here. And can we move these cameras back into frame? So and I'll have everyone, I'll have everyone move over to this side, if that's okay. So let's do, we'll do this one from dead ahead, and then we'll do that one from an angle. Yeah, please, that would be great. Okay. And if you could do me a favor and start rolling that whenever you. Great. Okay.
The fact that it tastes good means that this
Okay.
may not have been planted.
Cool. Is that on? Okay, cool. So if everyone is just watching the screen right here, what we're going to do right now is, sorry. Because I mentioned earlier, remember that you want to expose for the brightest thing in your image. When I turn the lights off, nothing is the brightest thing in the image. It's just black. So remember, what we're going to do first is we're going to light the background. So strike. I'm going to use this tube for, okay, not green though. Right. So I'm just going to keep it, say right there, right? So now obviously if we're looking at our image, we have a silhouette. I'm going to turn on false color now, right there. And what false color does, if everyone wants to move really, really close here, you can see that it has a graph here. And if we can turn on false color here too, that would be huge. Turn this so it's
yeah, that'll be good because that's on display right now.
oh, great. Oh yeah, you can see it. Oh, I don't think you're able to see.
Is it on the camera itself?
No, it's on the monitor. That's weird. But anyway, if you're looking over here, right, there's a graph here. Gray is going to be middle gray, so right there on your exposure. And then purple is actually going to be way too dark. That's like 3 stops under. So obviously we've only lit the background right now, and you can see we're pretty gray right there. So we have pretty good exposure. Now what we're going to do, what's the next step actually? Once we have our background done, what light are we turning on?
Key light.
Key light. Good. So who wants to help me with the key light? Someone raise your hand. Great. Come on over. So we have, can I keep this right here? So you guys might have heard, there's types of lighting. You have Rembrandt lighting, you have split lighting, you have all this type of lighting. I'm not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to turn lights on and see what happens. You good, Owen? Okay. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to have you do this, I want you to call points and then move this light until it's right about here. Let's just move it somewhere.
Points.
Great. Good. And so notice that he put the tall leg facing where the light is actually going. And so now we're going to drop a sandbag on that tall leg, if I could actually land it. Okay. Now that we have our key light here, we're going to turn it on. Are we good over here? Cool. Okay. So if everyone's watching here, so now I want you to turn on the light.
How do you turn it on?
So, oh yeah, I probably should have said that. The power button is on the ballast. All your controls are on the actual ballast. So what are you going to say before you turn the power on?
Striking.
He's going to say striking, close your eyes. And now he's going to click the big power button.
Big power.
It should,
Menu.
nope.
This guy.
Yeah.
Power button. Great.
And look at that, now we have light, right? And if you look here, let me turn false color off. What we've done, and it's also visible on the TV, is we have this really soft diffused lighting. There's no harsh shadows on her face. Everyone see that? Cool. If I turn false color on now, what you'll see is that the key light is pretty much right on middle gray. This yellow, or this pink, in this case indicates middle gray +1, which is 1 stop over. So, but there's also this kind of green, which is about 1 stop less. When you're lighting a face, you're not gonna have a perfect, clean, everything is 1 stop over. Light changes and it diffuses over the sort of bounds of the skin and the bumps and the pores and all that stuff. So you're never gonna have perfect, clean lighting across. However, we can get closer to what we want. So right now, if you'll look, what we have is roughly middle gray, and we have some kind of dark spots 1 stop under on the key side. We want to be 1 stop over on the key side. So can I have another volunteer? Thank you. I need another volunteer. Someone raise your hand. Owen. Actually, no. Right, what's your name again? Yeah. Say it again. Yeah. You? Okay, cool. I'm going to have you head right over to that ballast over there. And what we're going to do is we are going to adjust the intensity of the ballast. So let's go right over here. I'll come over there and help you. And everyone watch the false color on that display on the monitor over there. And the way we adjust intensity is by spinning this top wheel. It'll change this percentage number. So spinning this way makes it more, spinning this way makes it less. We want it to be more. So you can go ahead and spin that, and I want everyone here to tell us when to stop when most of the key side of the face is closer to pink. Okay? All right, so ready? Go. We're at 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. So now we're maxed out. And what does our false color look like? There you go. That's pretty good because we have most of this key side of the face is now pink. So there we go. We have our key light exposure set. Do you want to take a look at that? I'll sit in your place so you can take a look. Okay. Everyone kind of see it? So this side of my face has all that pink over it. This side might be a little more gray going to green. That was Chris's fault. He told me to. And yeah, so does everyone kind of see that? Okay, great. I'm going to have a different volunteer sit down now while we talk about fill light. Jonas, can I have you? Great. So, great, okay. So now Jonas is sitting. We have this kind of pretty good lighting over here, but if you look, this side of his face is like crazy dark. We're hitting blue, which is NBDL, which stands for near black detail loss. So we don't want detail loss. So what we're going to do is we need to add a fill light over here. One way we can add fill is by using an actual point source. Another way we can add fill is by using a bounce. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use a bounce. If you remember what I was talking about earlier, a bounce is literally any material that reflects light. And so this 5-in-1 reflector, lucky for us, has a bounce. It has like 4 bounces on it. We're just going to use this white bounce over here. And what I'm going to do now is if I just use it to bounce the light coming from this 300 over here, and I bounce it back onto Jonas's face, watch the false color. If I'm going no bounce, bounce, no bounce, bounce, no bounce, bounce. Does everyone see that? We see the effect that's making. So if I just keep it, I have a gobo head. Oh, I do. Great. Hold on. Please hold, everyone. And this is also what C-stands are good for. You can just clamp stuff into them, which is pretty fire. Cool. So now we have our bounce. Taking the light from the 300, bouncing it right back onto Jonas's face. And now, say it again?
Still got a lot of blue.
Yes, we still have a lot of blue. Does that say on air? That's so cool. Oh, and did you know this? That's so wild. Okay, anyway. So we do still have a lot of blue, right? And the thing is, this bounce just clearly is not enough. So in this case, I would either swap out the bounce for a different light. Normally you want your strongest light to be your key light. I just didn't want to set up the 600 because it's huge. So normally I would have the 600 as my key light, and then I could use the 300 as the fill light. Right now, let's just leave it right there. We would want it to be a little brighter than this, but you know what, actually, we can do this. If we just take this grid off, it's going to let more light out because the grid is dropping some of our exposure. That's a little better, right? So that's what that looks like. That's even like, so his skin right now is right on middle gray. You see that? So that is, I guess, the perfect exposure that you would want your skin on. Normally you'd want it a little bit even brighter than that. I think that looks totally fine.
Would an option in this case to be like to make the background even darker, or
Yeah.
background darker, so that you could expose for something darker, and then therefore the light is.
Yeah, so yeah. If you wanted to, you could drop your background light and then change your camera settings to make the key light darker. But the thing is, we don't want the key light any darker. If anything, we would want it brighter to get it a stop over. Right now it's perfectly in the middle.
If the background was darker, then you set your exposure to be longer or something like that, and therefore the key light would be, because isn't it like the ratio of the background
Yes.
to the key light?
Yeah. So say I drop the background light, right? If I drop, so right now I'm at 97%. If I drop it to say 30, right? Also, one of the things that's happening is this light is spilling all the way onto our background. So normally we would want to cut that out with this grid. That's why I had the grid on. So it's spilling a little bit right now, but that is, you could do that, which is turn down your background, adjust your camera settings. But normally when you're on set, your DP is going to set your aperture, he's going to set his exposure and just be like, fix it. And now it's your job to make everything look good. So normally once the camera settings are set, you don't really get to touch them, and you just have to use whatever you have available to do that. Jonas, you want to go take a look? I'll sit down. Cool. So does that make sense to everyone so far? Yes? Great. Now, if we kind of look at this image, first off, that, you know what, let me sit down so it makes it easier for you guys. I look like a little washed out right now. The color looks a little bit off, and that's because right now our key light, Owen, what is our color temp on that right now? 3200. So 3200 is on the low end of our color temperature scale. Obviously lower means warmer, higher means cooler. So because right now I'm looking like really orange, I would say, and at this point it's kind of up to me to figure out what I want. I would say maybe let's move color temperature. Oh, and I'm gonna have someone else do it actually. I need a volunteer. Anyone who hasn't touched a light before. Chris, you've touched a light, but yeah, all right, go ahead. Oh yeah, Bharat's doing it. Great. So if you head over there, the second dial, the bottom dial is the one that's gonna affect color temperature. So let's change that. We want it to be cooler, so are we gonna go up or down? Up, exactly. So let's go to something like 5,000. Keep it right in the middle, right? There we go. 5,000. Okay, cool. So now you see I'm much cooler than I was before. I can't really tell because I'm sitting here, but you want to get it as close to accurate skin tones as possible as you can see on camera, and then it's kind of the colorist's job to like fix it and balance everything out. If you were here last week, that balance node, and you spin the wheel to get good skin tones. But this is that. Now that we kind of have this, we can do an optional hair light. So the way we would do that is your hair light, you normally want it to come down from above. You don't want it to be from down here because you're going to see it in your frame. So one of the main ways we do a hair light is by using a C-stand and a gobo arm. So we'll take this, and this is why C-stands are great. You can do literally anything you want with them. So say I want it to get like way higher. It's way higher, right? Say I want to boom something out. I'm gonna take this gobo arm. I'm just gonna thread it into, you know what, wait, let me have someone else do this. Why am I doing this? Chris, come here. So Chris, you're gonna take the gobo arm and you're going to, let me spin this so it's supposed to face the right way. He's gonna thread it through the gobo head, and you always want, yep, there you go. And he's just gonna spin the gobo, yep, that way. Good job, righty-tighty. No. So you just have to spin it until it locks into place, ready? So this thing will, like that, and now you can lock it. Great. So now we have this whole deal happening right here, right? And now we want a hair light. So say my subject is sitting Can I have someone sitting in here? Just anyone. You'll only be here for like 2 seconds. What? No, not you. Kev. Oh, what? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So. Okay, great. So now that we have someone here sitting, you see that there's really no separation between the background and his hair. It's just like, it's background and then it's hair, and there's nothing really separating it. So this is the whole point of a hair light. In this case, I'm going to use, I'm going to get rid of this tube in the background because this is already filling it out. And wasn't there like a pin on this thing? All right, hold on. We can stick the tubes. Oh my God. Okay, Owen's getting one. But we can use these little pins. Thanks, King. All of these have screws that we can screw into. You can use any small light you want. You could do an MC Pro. You could use a bigger tube. Whoa, sorry. You can do whatever you want. But what we'll do, we'll unscrew this gobo head. We'll put the pin in, and we'll just tighten it up like that. If anything, we want it to be like a little more, oh my God, the thing happened where it gets stuck. This is the one issue with using these pins, is that they'll get stuck. Hi, Aisha, how are you? Can you give me a hammer from the office? One of the issues, so this is what's happening right now. These bars, when they go all the way through, you get an equal tightening on either side because it's just compressing against the bar. Here, what we're doing is we have one pin on this side and nothing on this side. So when we tighten it, sometimes these C-stands will be like, I'm gonna tighten further on this end and not enough on this end, and it'll just decide to be annoying. But we can fix that by taking a hammer and just like low-key beating the shit out of it. So if I just like, it comes apart. But we'll do it a little nicer this time. Just do that. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna boom this up a little bit. Good, right there. And then we'll physically move this up. And now that we're sending stuff really far away, even though we have this leg empty, it's probably a good idea to just put a sandbag on there just to be safe. So now we have this here. Let's move it a little bit further down. And if we watch what's happening, we're gonna get, good. Oh. We're gonna get kind of that hair light that we were talking about. And what I'll do is, points. I'll move this so we're not getting as much spill on the background. And if you see now, if we're looking at this image right up here, we have, let me tilt the camera up, hold on. We're getting this light separate, no one saw that. We're getting this light that's separating his hair from the background. So if I was to turn this off, what you'll see is that this is almost hitting him top down, so we'll move it a little further back. We're getting this light that's, can we, no, just loosen one of the height risers, yeah. All right, lock. Good. So, off, on, off, on. So now I'll sit here, you can go take a look at what that's doing. Chris, can you turn this off and on? And then, tilt this up because I'm taller. You see that? Okay, so off, on, off, on. Normally, you would use a more diffused source. This is a little harsh, which is why you're getting so much spill on the top of my head. And you really want it to just be like a very thin line around the top. But this is doing a decent enough job. So if we turn up, is that back on? Yeah, okay. So now we pretty much have a pretty well lit subject. And all we did was use pretty much just 2 lights. You could use a fill if you want. You don't even need the hair light. If we just kill that and we're literally just using this points, or if we're literally just using the 300, like already getting a nice diffused key light does a lot it's much better than just leaving the house lights on, right? So that's why lighting's important. We'll use a couple. What time is it? Okay, I'm gonna wrap this thing up in the next like few minutes. But what we'll do is just to show you guys another example of like the diffusion that I was talking about. Right now, let me put this back on. And if you try and remember the kind of diffusion or the kind of wrap that we're getting with the light right now on my face, right? You're probably I literally can't see shit, but you're probably getting semi-soft right here, and it's doing a pretty gradual fade out over here, but you're still seeing very visible shadows around here, is what I'm assuming. Is that? So, no, you're totally good. It's all good. What? No, it's fine. Whatever. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to switch this dome out for this much bigger diffusion curtain. And can I get house lights again? Kill. And what you're going to see is how much just getting a bigger diffusion source is going to help with wrapping the light around your subject's face, right? So if I'm here, yeah, you want to toss the cone on? Points. Yeah. Cool. Let's just do that. Kristen, can we boom that side up a little bit? You might need to do the top one. Hold on. All right, ready? Up. All right, that's fine. So now if we kill the house lights and Chris turns on the 300, right? So we're getting up. So the thing is, the difference that we're seeing right now is this looks a lot brighter because, also don't look at that source. The diffuser is cutting down, literally just the cone itself on the diffuser is cutting down the light by about a stop. The diffusion material in front of it was doing another stop, and then the grid was doing roughly another stop. So we were dropping by about 3 stops there, and now all we have is this one piece of fabric. So Chris, what intensity is that at?
100.
Give me like 40.
What is like a stop in terms of multiplication percentage? I assume it's like a log scale.
Yeah, it is a log scale. It's similar to IRE. So one stop of light, I don't know the like exact number. I can get back to you on that. That's a great question, and I should have just figured that out before I sat down here. But roughly now, what you can see is that just because we have a bigger source and it's a little bit further away from the actual light, we're getting a much better wrap across my face. I'm assuming, you're not seeing that no, it's not harsh, but you're not seeing as much of a shadow on this side of my face as you maybe did before. Would I be accurate in saying that, right? So that's that. That's why diffusion is important. There's a lot of ways to diffuse. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really want to mention. Not really. That's kind of it. But that's the same thing as the tube, just smaller. But yeah, so when you're lighting a scene, this is called 3-point lighting, where you have a key light, a fill light, and a hair light. This is the most common type of lighting scenario that people like to use. And yeah, it's very simple and very chill. That's all I kind of had for you guys. Thank you guys for coming. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have any questions, I'll be here for a little while breaking down all this shit. So yeah, if not, please house lights, that'd be great. When's the next workshop?
The next workshop is not next week, but the week after, and it's on how to use the gimbal.
Oh yeah.
Camera stabilizer.
Yeah. Brian is teaching the gimbal workshop. That's going to be very useful. We love gimbals. We love Brian. Come to that workshop. Fire.